Okay, good afternoon and welcome to today's statewide webinar hosted by SpedTech's and Partners Resource Network. My name is Sarah Untersea and I am part of the SpedTech's team. The topic for today's webinar is supporting independence for your child with the Next Steps checklist. A few housekeeping items before we get started today. If you need technical assistance during today's webinar, we do have Brian Wilson with us today from Region 10 to provide that support. He is the black and white box that you might see on your Zoom screen, and you can send him a chat message if you need any help. Today's webinar will be recorded and will be made available on the SpedTech's website. It usually takes about a week in order for that to be made accessible and to be posted, but we will drop our website link in the chat so that you are able to access that once it becomes available. Although we will not have time for questions and answers today, you are welcome to put any questions that you may have in the Q&A box, and we will pass those along to our presenters following the webinar. SpedTech is the Special Education Information Center for Texas. We are a collaborative project between Region 10 Education Service Center and Texas Education Agency. We help parents understand their rights and responsibilities under IDEA and facilitate collaboration when there are concerns between the parent and the school district. We also serve as a resource for educators. We offer support via phone, email, or live chat for families and professionals, webinars, resources, and our contact information is on the screen. I am now going to turn it over to Stephanie McLaughlin to share some additional information about Partners Resource Network.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone. My name is Stephanie McLaughlin. I am the Training and Evaluation Specialist for Partners Resource Network. And also joining us today with Partners Resource Network is our Director of Statewide Services, Christina Henning. Partners Resource Network, or PRN, is the nonprofit agency that operates the Texas statewide network of parent training and information centers. PTIs are funded through the Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs. There are 4 PTI projects in Texas known as PACT, PATH, PIN, and TEAM. Our mission is to empower and support Texas families and individuals impacted by disabilities or special healthcare needs. We do this through a network of highly skilled, regionally located coordinators who are knowledgeable in local policies, services, and resources, as well as state and national guidelines. PRN provides training, information, and one-on-one assistance at no cost to Texas families and youth. We serve parents of children and youth with disabilities from birth to age 26, as well as youth self-advocates ages 14 through 26. Thank you.
For today's presentation, we are excited to welcome our presenters, Jeanette Dripple and Bryn Briggs. A graduate of Texas A&M University and the University of Oklahoma, Jeanette has an undergraduate degree in business administration and a master's degree in special education with a transition certificate. As the transition specialist for Northside Independent School District, Jeanette supported secondary campuses to implement effective transition planning, hosted family information sessions, and organized an annual community resource fair. Jeanette now serves as a project coordinator with the Eleanor and Charles Garrett Center on Transition and Disability Studies at Sam Houston State University. Jeanette and her husband, Steve, reside in the San Antonio area with their 2 children. Bryn is the project manager for the Texas Education Agency's Student-Centered Transitions Network, housed at Sam Houston State University, the Garrett Center. She graduated with an undergraduate degree in special education and a master's degree in educational psychology. After completing her master's degree, she received her educational diagnostician certification from Stephen F. Austin University, as well as her principal certification. Bryn has over 12 years of Texas public school experience, which includes the roles of secondary special education teacher, transition coordinator, and 18+ programs instructional coach. While in Bryan ISD, she brought Project Search to the district and oversaw its operations until she transitioned to the Student-Centered Transition Network. Bryn also assists in leading district level, state level, and national level professional development on various topics in transition. Bryn is a doctoral candidate at Sam Houston State University pursuing a degree in educational leadership. At this point, I am going to stop sharing and I am going to turn it over to Jeanette and Bryn.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Sorry, guys, my mouse was not cooperating with me whatsoever. We are so glad you all are here today. Like Sarah said, I am Jeanette Driffel, and I am a project coordinator and content specialist with Texas Education Agency Student-Centered Transitions Network. And Bryn is here. We will be co-presenting on this presentation together. So as Bryn has shared her screen right here with you, I just wanted to let you know we will be covering the next steps to independent skills and strategies checklist. And Bryn has shared this document in the chat as well for you to look at while we go through it. So the next steps checklist focuses on information and resources that will support educators, families, and students with necessary access to community and statewide services. It takes the guesswork out of transition planning for the ARG committee, so the admission review and dismissal. It provides a framework of reference for celebrating achievements, looking at those next steps, and planning for the future. The checklist is divided into age and grade ranges. So as you can see here, this starts with birth to age 3, and it will end all the way with 18 plus. Although children develop at different rates, it highlights critical developmental milestones that educators and families might expect the child or the adult student to reach by a certain age and grade. But I want to point out an important note. This checklist represents averages, so it will not fit every child perfectly. So we tell you, if appropriate, use one for younger or older age groups to help get a better picture of your child or adult student and their strengths and transition needs. So while we go through this, Bryn is obviously in control of the screen. So we'll take some pauses for her to kind of move around and see. But I don't know, are you able to annotate, Bryn? Are we going to see? No. Okay. So Bryn kind of zoomed in there. In that top right corner, you're going to see the legend. So in this legend, you will see that it has a C, which means complete, a P, which means in progress, and an N, which means not needed. So before we go any deeper into this benchmark, we wanted you guys to look at this legend at the top of the document so you kind of understood why you see C, P's, and N's throughout. So let's look at the choice making and decision making column. Within that column, each category has abbreviations that appear in each age and grade range throughout this checklist. So again, this document will look the same. What's really going to change, obviously, are those different, you'll see child can, and then again, each of those headers. But throughout, you will see that the age changes. So again, like we mentioned, that each category has those abbreviations that appear in each age and grade range throughout. As I mentioned earlier, the C is going to represent skills the child has completed. The P is representing skills that are in progress, and that N represents skills that are not needed. Since the documents are a fillable PDF, you can select the appropriate abbreviations based on the specific need of your child. What's nice about this too is it is a fillable PDF, but it's very accessible to be printed out, and you can hand fill it in as well. So as we go through, this checklist is going to focus on specific skill areas that help predict post-secondary success for your child with disabilities. We're going to see choice making and decision making. We're going to highlight goal setting and independence, self-management and self-awareness, as well as self-determination and self-advocacy. And those are each category, same color throughout. So blue will always identify with the choice making and decision making. The yellow will have goal setting and independence. Self-management and self-awareness will have that light red. And then self-determination and self-advocacy will have that light, beautiful mint green. Starting with the age or grade range most appropriate for your child or adult student, you're going to determine which skills are completed, in progress, or not needed. You're going to carefully want to consider each of these skills in the variety of settings. So remember, we want to think about this at home. If they're in daycare, are they in school? Are they out in public at a store? Before deciding a particular skill, we recommend that it's not needed for your child. Collaborate, and this is where we really talk about that collaboration piece, is collaborate with the teachers, educators, and the families, as well as the student, because this piece is critical. And like I just mentioned, please collaborate with your child's teacher if you need help with some of these skills. If a teacher completes this checklist, so you as an educator decide to complete it, provide your ensure that the family provides input and that the family is asked to provide that input and that it will reflect the child accurately. So once skills have been established, thank you, Britt, you have been identified to work on either you or your child's teacher can connect that appropriate teaching and learning strategies, which you will see there on the right side of the second page. And these strategies can be implemented at home, school, or both. So now that the checklist is complete, you've completed that age range. Your child is birth to age 3. You've gone through and you've checked whether it's the completed, it's in progress, or right, we've talked about that it's not needed at this time. You're going to look at the example of pairing the skills in progress with the corresponding teaching and learning strategies as Bryn has highlighted here. So for example, let's take the time to look at a skill. So in this case, we want to look at, we can mention, I'm going to pick one, create an originated play area to reduce overstimulation, organized play area to reduce stimulation, or you can offer choices given 2 options. We want to look at those different things, take this time and look at that skill progress level for this child that's birth to age 3. Then you or your child's teachers will look on the second page of this checklist and find that. So if we're looking at that front page, Bryn, do you mind scrolling again? So that corresponding, my child can make choices between 2 items. So then we'll go to the learning strategy on that next page and then look at one of those teaching and learning strategies that support that choice if the child is working towards that, it is in progress. So notice that one teaching and learning strategy under choice making could be, again, like we talked about, establish predictable routines. Sorry, I know I'm squinting in there because it's small. Limit choice to reduce frustrations. So when we look at that, model, for this example, let's say it's one that we wanted to model in role play, and that's like in the elementary age section. And we talk through that. If you model and role play at home, or we limit choices, all of these teaching and learning strategies can be utilized, whether it's in the home, it's at a store, it's in school. So this is where that collaboration is critical between the educator and the parent to talk through these various steps. And when we talk about this, we think about why this is important and giving them those 2 choices. Again, they're going to realize that they can choose, you know, if it's whether they're the line leader or they take attendance or they're the bathroom helper or whatever they may be. We think about those choices that they're given, and this creates that choice making. Again, when we talk about goal setting independence, encouraging requests for help, self-management and self-awareness. One of the areas you talked about could be that they were in progress and they were working on acknowledging feelings and emotions and talking through that piece. And why would a child feel sad, happy, excited? And again, these are all things that are going to build upon. And the goal is that then when they transition from that birth to age 3, then they go to 3 to 5. And it builds on each other as they progress all the way through 18 plus. So the second page of the checklist, as you see that we're on here, also has this piece that talks about the important action steps for families. Again, each of those build upon as well. So if Bryn were to scroll all the way throughout, which he's going to do here shortly, it's going to show you that these action steps, each grade band will either add, maybe not necessarily be applicable, but we'll talk through that each with you here in a second. So families with activities and what we ask for these important action steps for families with activities and suggestions is for connecting with those community partners. Depending on the child or the adult student's disability, some of these action steps may not be needed or appropriate. So Bryn, do you mind letting them take a look now?
Absolutely. So Jeanette gave you a quick overview of how this is formatted, the different things that you're going to see. But we did want to take like a little bit of a deeper dive into how you as families or even educators on here can utilize this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the important action steps in this kind of mustard yellow box. And you're going to notice that on each age band, there's going to be different skills or different actions for you. But something that you're going to see consistently on every one is this very first one about putting your child's name on the Medicaid waiver list. If you have a child between birth and age 3, you'll want to consider putting your child's name on the Medicaid waiver list, such as home and community support services or HCS, community living assistance and support services or class, and the Texas Home and Living. And those are just to name a few. These waivers are able to provide families and people with disabilities supports like personal care, maybe in bathing or dressing, nursing care, home modifications, maybe making your home more accessible, widening doorways, car modifications, and respite cares in certain therapies. So it's important to put your child's name on this list as soon as you are aware of their disability or their diagnosis, because some of these lists have upwards of 15 years of a wait time. And so when we're looking at that, the reason it's on every grade band is because people get diagnosed with disabilities at different stages. For me, my 4-year-old, or when my daughter, when she was 4 and diagnosed with autism, we put her name on the list right away. And if we're looking at that, if we give it the 15-year wait, then she's going to be 19 before her name even possibly comes up for some of those services. So she's going to be an adult and hopefully not living in my house at that time. But those are some things that you're going to want to continue to look at, are these important action steps. So as we move to ages 3 to 5, you're going to focus on, we're going to look at the teaching and learning strategies and how you as a parent or family member can support the growth of your child at home. So under choice making, you see different strategies. Let's look at the establishing predictable outcomes or routines. So one thing you may be thinking is, what does that look like at home? How do I help facilitate that? Well, it can look a lot of different ways, such as having a visual schedule for morning or nighttime routines, setting alarms. I know that my daughter loves setting an alarm or a timer on Alexa. And that is something that it helps her to understand time and when to move on to the next thing. Another example could be having a family calendar. So if we look at getting into our elementary school, grades 1 through 5, you're going to notice that one thing is, as the children get older, you're going to see more action steps for your families. For children in grades 1 through 5, you can see that collaborating with your child's teacher and possibly talking with them about your child participating in their art committee meeting may be discussed. That could look like them being in there for 1 or 2 minutes, just giving an introduction, or they could have a mini presentation or an about me book. So when we go over and look at the teaching and learning strategies for this age band, one of the strategies under goal setting right here and independence is to encourage your child to make choices throughout the day. Those are things that are going to be really important for helping to build that self-advocacy and self-determination skills. That could be them deciding if they want to have a sack lunch or get a lunch from the line. That could be selecting what clothes they wear for the day, or maybe selecting what activity the family is going to do after they get home from school. The possibilities are really endless with that one. Just making sure that you provide your child with the ability to make age-appropriate choices to help support their independence. So moving on to middle school, they're getting a little bit older now. We're going to be looking at grades 6 through 8. Notice that on the important action steps, this one has included the participation of your child in an ARD committee meeting. Again, this could look different range or in different ways depending on your child's ability or your comfortableness of them being in the meeting. But it is important to note that around this age, schools are required to start looking at transition planning for your child. And so what transition planning looks at is what they want to do after they leave the public school system. How can we support them in doing that? How can we help them? What classes do they need to take? And just having those discussions. I always joke that I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so we know that asking a 6th grader or 7th grader to tell us what they want to be and know that that's not going to stay consistent throughout their high school career, more than likely, is okay. But having those discussions is a really important thing. So if we look at the teaching and learning strategies, for goal setting, we're going to go back to that goal setting and independence. Some of the strategies include emergency preparedness, helping to develop their IEP goals and self-monitoring. I always tell the story that my daughter, when she gets mail, she loves mail. And so when her progress reports come home, the first thing that she wants to do is open it up, and we go through her progress reports and we talk about what that looks like, if she's mastered her goal or if she's still working on her goal. I try to do that in a very childlike way for her, but she loves to know what her progress looks like. And we talk about different things that she can do or that she could talk with her teacher about to help make that, to help, I guess, increase her readiness in meeting her goals. So another thing that you can consider, was that emergency preparedness. I believe it is TCDD that has just put out a survey asking parents to complete a emergency preparedness or disaster preparedness survey, helping them to understand where are the needs that are out there. That could be, what do I do in case of a fire? Who do I go to if I can't find mommy or daddy, or if mommy or daddy gets hurt? What do I do? The difference between big emergencies and little emergencies. I got a paper cut. Do I call 911 for that? What does that look like? And so having those discussions about the importance of what to do in situations that may not be planned situations. Now we're going to get into high school. This is where the fun, I'm a high school person, like I taught high school. So this is where my jam kind of is. So we're going to look at the supports for 9th through 12th grade. Now, these action steps, there are a lot on this page. I'm actually going to have to zoom out so that you can see them all, but don't worry, don't let that scare you, because we've been building on the action steps. And so if your child was diagnosed in elementary school, you may have already done some of these things. These might seem familiar to you. But for students who are diagnosed in high school, maybe with a learning disability or OHI or other health impairment, we want to make sure that those parents don't miss any of the action steps that we felt were really important. So again, it may seem like a lot, but we're just building on those previous lists. And one thing to notice on this list is that you're going to begin talking with your child's teacher or medical care team really about the transitioning from pediatric care to adult care, adult medical care. That's something that gets overlooked a lot by parents because it's just not something that's thought about of, oh, my child's been seeing a pediatrician, but they're about to turn 18 and now that pediatrician can't see them anymore. And so what does that transition look like? That's something that we want to, kind of bring to the forefront for families. Another thing that you're going to want to be discussing is that transfer of rights. What happens when your child turns 18 and is no longer a child, but considered a legal adult in the state of Texas? School districts are required to kind of have that conversation with you and tell you that, the rights are going to be moving over. And so helping to prepare for that is something that's going to just be really crucial and help with that. So our final age band is going to be our 18 plus students, our students who are receiving services after they've completed all of their high school graduation requirements as far as their TEEPs, but maybe they're still staying with the school district because they need some help for transitioning or employment skills or some of those things. So when we look at this final age band, it's to support adult students. And so that's a really important thing. And, I even know whenever we were developing this as a team, we were trying to figure out, we don't want to call it a child anymore because they're not a child. So what do we say? How do we make that an appropriate list just to help families understand? And so the action steps are going to include preparing for graduation, maybe looking at guardianship alternatives or powers of attorney, supported decision-making, helping your child understand that they're able to vote now and what does that mean and how exciting that is. You're also going to notice on the teaching and learning strategies, there's going to be skills like supporting your adult child in selecting their own accommodations, helping them to vocalize what helps them to be successful in their school or at their work environment, participating in their community. So maybe that looks like Special Olympics, or participating in a youth group, or any of those things. And then finally, helping them to understand that they are an adult now. And so those rights and responsibilities that come with that are really big. And so helping your child and your child's teacher to understand what that looks like for your family. You know, maybe you're not ready to let loose. I don't think I'm going to be ready when my little girl's 18. You know, I still call my mom whenever I need help with finances or trying to figure out mortgage loans or things like that. And so to think that our kids, just because they turn 18, that they're going to be ready for all the things, you know, we know that that's not a reality. And so we also want to encourage them asking questions. And so being a good role model for your child of asking those good questions in ARD meetings, or asking the teachers good, thoughtful questions, helps to kind of build that skill within your adult student as well. And then finally, helping to have your students start leading their ARD meeting. This may have occurred earlier on, depending where you are and how comfortable you are. But really, once they get to this age, we want them to be guiding those discussions. And so what does that look like in collaborating with their teacher, or community partnerships, inviting them to ARD meetings? What all is incorporated in that? And so that is a quick overview of our next steps to independence. This can be used in the school setting, at the home setting. It really just has a lot of endless possibilities for how to utilize that. And the links to both of those documents are in the chat. And we hope that you utilize them, and we hope that you have found this just a little bit of a new tool for you to put in your toolbox.
And I think real quick before we wrap it up, I like what Bryn said and showed you is it's to build upon, right? So what's the awesome piece about it is you could print out just the birth to age 3, and you know, and it builds, you keep that as a record, right? The educator, the parent, the child, and again, everything builds upon each other. So like Brenda said, is we get to this end goal and we have it, and we have the student, you know, at 18, you know, the skills and strategies listed throughout are met, you know, that are for the child and the family and the educators to build upon. And so everything was built meticulously so that those skills and strategies really allowed for that growth in each of those 4 categories that we used, along with the teaching and the teaching strategies to help the student out, and again, to provide those links. So Bryn, thank you for really touching on that. And again, we hope that you found this helpful in preparing for the future. And again, as a parent, as an educator, you know, and for the students to really be able to see that it's a great resource, and it really starts those conversations that we all need to have with one another. This should never be done in isolation. Everybody should have an equal part in it. And you know, for more information, Brenda's already shared that. You will find this document. It is also offered in Spanish. So that's even, you know, we've been able to create it in a Spanish document as well. So go ahead, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette and Bryn. This is such great information, and this is such a wonderful resource for families and for educators. And we are so glad that you were able to be here today and share this with everyone. We want to thank everyone for your time today, and we are going to go back to Stephanie McLaughlin to share some additional information about Partners Resource Network.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, ladies, for such a fantastic resource for us to be able to use. Once again, we are Partners Resource Network. We're the nonprofit agency that operates the Texas statewide network of parent training and information centers. We provide information, training, and one-on-one assistance at no cost to Texas families and youth. So on the screen, you'll see our contact information. Please reach out to us with any questions, or if there's anything we can do to help, we'll put that in the chat box as well. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. If you have questions about special education, you can contact us at SpedTex. We are happy to help. Our contact information is on the screen.